What's your feelings on Diddy's case?
Tonight, Sean Diddy Combs is looking to boost his legal team with the help of veteran Atlanta defense attorney Brian Steele. Brian Steele recently represented rapper Young Thug in the YSL RICO trial, where he helped the rapper avert prison time with probation.
Because Brian Steele, again, his record is impeccable. For him to get arrested was craziness.
I don't think people that aren't in the legal field, especially in the legal field in Georgia, can appreciate Brian Steele's reputation.
We talked about Montoya and the immunity, so I just want to kind of talk about how they dangled the immunity for the testimony.
Let me explain it.
Now to the Sean Diddy Combs sex trafficking trial. A former employee of the music mogul was granted immunity today. Without it, George Kaplan signaled his intention to invoke his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Now that he's got immunity, Kaplan is expected soon to take the witness stand.
That immunity isn't so much dangled. They throw that shit at you and you don't have a choice. You don't ask for it.
Seriously?
Seriously, you don't ask for it. Woody didn't ask for immunity. No, and whoever else got stuck with that. They just
What?
Yeah, you don't ask for that. They just give it to you. It's not a gift. I shouldn't say give it to you. It's like a giant pile of shit, and they throw it at you. You don't ask for it, and it sticks to you, and you can't say, no, I'm cool. I don't want immunity.
How did the YFN Luchi case intertwine with this case, if at all? Did Luchi ever have a chance to give information or cooperate? What's your position on Young Thug's plea?
And I don't think anybody should criticize what he did, even himself. Because I know he's second guessing himself right now, right?
Yeah.
And
why would you say that though?
What?
Why would you say he shouldn't be
criticizing, kicking himself?
Yeah.
Because you got to do what you got to do when you're in that position.
It's a different kind of celebration because Thug is home.
Yeah.
I would think Brian Steele wants to nail this to the ground.
Hell yeah, he does.
Yeah, I've spent 2 years away from my family in here every day, and we're whooping them.
Yeah.
We got them on the mat. It's two.
Yeah.
They just need one more.
Yeah.
The match is over.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if
we all felt that way.
That's what I'm saying.
No,
so
that's true.
And if you ain't talking no dough, then I ain't interested. Look, they say the sky's the limit, I'm going farther than that. She keep blowing on my phone, so I called her mama, come get your daughter back. They just want a little bit of fame, get them boys whack. Little one eye, bust your brain, better get a hard hat. They say the sky's the limit, I'm going farther. They can try to, but can't kill me. I'm immortal. I just bought a nigga life, as and did a side, come with that order. You lazy, the reason you broke, you don't know how to hustle. Won't try me, they know I'm stressed, son. Look, red rum, red dot. Hit the block when 12 come. Look, know I'm thugging to the fullest, asking for a bullet, cause he never felt one. Stick him to the wall, this a nail gun. Riding with my dog, trying to nail something. Yeah. I said that on you when he got your partner too.
So let me ask you this. What is the difference between Young Thug's plea and Gunna's plea?
Well, there's some big differences there, right? So Gunna pleads out right away, right? He doesn't even get into the trial part of the thing. The other thing is Gunna signs off on all this bullshit that the state, right? The state wants to put out. Now, maybe he didn't sign off on all of it, but I think he signed off on YSL as a gang.
Yes.
And all this other crap, right? When they asked Jeffrey to do that, Jeffrey pushed back, right? Jeffrey, he could have taken a negotiated plea, and they wanted him to sign off on all these damn lies, right? Because that's all they care about.
Yeah.
They don't care about the truth.
Yes.
They care about getting a victory.
Yes.
So they wanted him to sign off on all that stuff. Jeffrey didn't do it. And what happens to Jeffrey by not doing that? What happens to Thug by not doing that? Because he wouldn't sign off on all their little things, YSL as a gang and all this other business, he had to take that non-negotiated plea, right? The blind plea. He had to risk going to prison. He risked going to prison partially so he wouldn't have to sign off on all that stuff that would have hurt the other guys.
But like bro was just saying,
Yeah.
right? There's a scenario where you're still taking a risk when you're doing this blind plea. Why not take the risk alongside Brian Steele, wait it out a couple of more months? Because we also have to examine the level of scrutiny Gunna has got, right? Gunna has gotten a certain level of scrutiny for pleading out in the same way that some people are saying that looks like Thug has now, for lack of a better term, played out in the same way. But like you said, there's some differences as it pertains to what was agreed on and what was actually admitted to.
I mean, there are those differences like I talked about, and I'm going to go back to the same thing that I said earlier. I'm just not going to criticize Gunna for doing what he did. I understand everybody is. Y'all's community can do it if you want to. I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to do it because I'm not in that situation. So Gunna did whatever he chose that thought he had to do. Thug did what he had to do. I wish Jeffrey would have stuck it out till the end. Yeah. Gone through it. But he had to, he had to make those decisions for himself.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to criticize him for it. The other thing is, I mean, just honestly, it's hard for me to criticize a guy that I sat by for 2 years.
Yes.
What would that say about me?
Well, I mean, the truth is never disrespect. And I know Thug come from my walk of life, so he understands that, right? The truth is never disrespect, right? And that's why when I stand out on the hill, I'm from a neighborhood, I'm from a town. If I wasn't who I said I was, and dudes brought that to the light, that could not ever be disrespectful, right? Because I ain't got no business acting like something that I'm not. I don't play this fugazi game with nobody. You see what I'm saying? What it is what we gonna dress it as, and that's just how it is, cut and dry. Let me ask you this: from a lawyer's perspective, from a legal perspective, is there any difference between Thug's plea and Gunna's plea? Not because you sat next to him 2 years. Is there a scenario where you as a lawyer say those two are the same things? And the reason I ask this is because Gunna's lawyer is positioning it that way. He's saying basically, y'all are mad at Thug. I'm sorry, y'all are mad at Gunna when Thug is kind of in the same scenario. To that, what do you say? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I totally understand the position that Gunna's lawyer is taking. I mean, there are differences, but they're fine differences, right? And those are kind of the differences that I brought up,
right? Which
is that the plea that Gunna took said some things in it that Jeffrey's plea did not say.
Yes.
And that's, I guess, the main difference between the two.
Right.
I mean, if there's a difference in the pleas, it's that.
Yeah.
But I get, and I guess it's Steve Sadow that's Gunna's lawyer, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I get what Steve's saying, because you guys are criticizing Gunna for pleading out and Thug pled out. And that's pretty much, I totally get that position of his. I understand it. There were just a few differences between them. But there were some differences.
And here's another difference that, on Thug's side is that, Thug was noted as the king of this. So there's really no one to tell on above him, right?
No, there's no one to tell on.
It's who do I tell on if I'm Thug? Like, who do I tell on?
Yeah.
There's no one to tell on. But all of these dudes can kind of implicate me of being some kind of head of something, but I have no one to really tell on. Well,
the other thing is, I don't think Thug really had the opportunity to plea out early. I don't think the state even gave him that choice.
They wanted to nail him to the cross.
They wanted Thug.
Yeah.
The target was Thug.
Yeah.
And they would do anything to get Thug. The target was on his back.
Right.
Wasn't on Gunna's back. I don't know why Gunna was, honestly, I don't know why Gunna was wrapped up in all this anyway.
Yeah. He had charge.
They had nothing.
Really to get him to cooperate. That's why they went and got him. They went and got him. They probably looked at his record, his shit, and was like, if we get him, he'll probably at least give us some information. We don't got much on him.
He didn't cooperate at all. I mean,
he didn't cooperate at all?
No, he signed what he had to sign to get the hell out of there, but he didn't cooperate. He didn't testify. None of that happened with Gunna. I didn't think people should have been giving Gunna hell, and I still don't.
So as the defense team over there for Yak Gotti, you don't see an issue with Gunna saying that this is a game?
I'm not happy that he said it. But you know what? I can explain that to the jury. And his lawyer knows I can explain that to the jury. And we did over and over again. Max and I, everybody. We all explained it to the jury. Yeah. And you know what? The jury understood. So what Gunna didn't hurt us at all. Didn't hurt us at all.
Wow. That's a heavy statement.
It's true.
Yeah.
I'm saying it because it's true.
Right.
He didn't hurt us.
And you played in between the whistles, so you know. You know,
I was there.
Yeah, you were there.
Look, that entire trial, that 2-year trial, nothing Gunna said ever came up before the jury. So how can his plea have hurt me?
Wow.
Have hurt Yak?
Yeah.
It didn't.
So do you think Thug
It helped their public opinion.
Yeah.
They spun it.
Right. Do you think Thug should not be mad at Gunna?
Oh, I'm not going to tell anyone how they should feel.
Okay. I mean, well, I guess that
I'm
is
not.
a heavy question, yeah.
I'm not.
But I mean, I'm wondering if all right, well.
I'm just not.
Yeah.
I mean, you may not like that answer, but that's where I'm going to stay.
Yeah. No, I
I'm not going to
respect
tell anyone how to feel about anything else.
Right. I respect it.
That's an age thing, man. I've learned that. I don't get involved, man.
Yeah.
You two want to go get divorced? I'm not taking sides.
Right. How much longer are you going to practice law?
Probably 15 more years.
15 more. Yeah.
What? Am I that old? Look at this.
You've been doing it 30. That's 45 years.
I got my bar license in 98, and I was doing it while in law school in 96. Not quite 30 yet. That's okay.
Yeah.
I love it.
You enjoy it. That's
I
what
love
you
it.
want to do. Something you enjoy for the rest of your life.
Shoot, what else would I do?
Right. So talk to the people about, like, when you filed this motion, you presented to him the 3 steps that's met the criteria. You met that criteria,
I did.
and he still said, get it out of here.
Yeah, he still wouldn't do it, even though I met, and you got to forgive me because I can't remember each of the 3.
Right.
But I met those criteria.
Right.
And what's interesting is he actually found I met the criteria, which was just crazy. Like, at least find I didn't meet one.
Yeah.
But he found I met the right criteria, and then he made up something and said, I'm just complaining about a ruling. I wasn't complaining about a ruling. Nowhere in my brief, nowhere in my argument am I complaining about his rulings. I'm complaining about this improper meeting he had.
Yes.
So, like you say, he denies it. I asked the Supreme Court, to take it up. That actually I was jumping a step. I probably shouldn't have done that. But it worked out well.
Yeah.
Because instead of just a one-word denial from the Supreme Court, they basically came back with a 3-page opinion that kind of outlined what really needed to happen.
Yeah.
And that's when Judge Glanville decided, okay, I'm going to have someone else look at this recusal issue.
Was that the point when they got him off the case?
That is.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And let's get back into what it was like when they took Brian Steele to jail, because again, he pressed the issue. He used certain words like sacrosanct. He said, people don't know what that means.
Yeah. Holy.
That means above, like, I'll tell you exactly
It's
what
something,
it means.
I view it as something holy.
Yeah, sacrosanct means it's regarded as too important or valuable to be interfered with or criticized.
Yeah.
That means what happened over here, you ain't even got the authority, no matter who life is on the line, to even question us about it.
Yeah.
He said that someone has parroted something that has happened in my courtroom, and this is sacrosanct.
And that's just not true. But he was indignant. Judge Glanville was indignant that someone would tell us what happened in this meeting in his chambers that wasn't even supposed to be taking place.
This was almost like a king. He was almost acting like it was some sort of like
again, and I don't know where that comes from,
Me
because
neither, man.
his reputation is not
Right.
someone that would be in that position. So I don't know what that was about.
So okay, when he took him to jail, would have continued the trial with Brian Steele in jail?
Well, that wouldn't have been my call, but Keith Adams.
He told him, lock me up too.
Yeah, lock me up too.
Yeah.
Lock me up too, because you are entitled under the Constitution to have the lawyer, your chosen lawyer, represent you at trial. That's a constitutional right. So if Jeffrey wanted Brian there to represent him, the trial shouldn't proceed without Brian Steele there representing Thug.
Right. No, but that's interesting. I mean, it has to be something to that, because there's jailhouse lawyers that can't just come out and represent people.
No. That's true. I mean, look, if I were to sit in here and get into all the minutiae and tedious exceptions and the corner case, I'm talking generalities when
facts.
I talk.
And that is true, because Brian Steele, again, his record is impeccable. For him to get arrested was craziness.
I don't think people that aren't in the legal field, especially in the legal field in Georgia, can appreciate Brian Steele's reputation for integrity, honesty, respect for the system. That stuff you see him doing in court, the honorable this, the honorable, that's not a put
required.
on. That's not a put on, though.
Yeah.
That's who he is.
Exactly. And it's not required. It's important,
No, it's not
too.
required.
Yeah.
He has tremendous respect for the judicial system, for the legal system. I don't want to say he worships it, because that would kind of be idolatry, but he holds it in such high regard that for anyone to say he was doing something in contempt of court for, and this is one of the reasons I was so upset with Miss Love, when she would attack Brian Steele's integrity, saying that he had altered stuff that he had received, altered things look, I've practiced law for almost 30 years.
Yes.
I was with the top 5 law firm. I've been against the top law firms all over this country. California, Texas, Massachusetts, New York, Virginia, everywhere. Hundreds of lawyers I've litigated against and with. And I have never met an attorney with more integrity than Brian Steele.
Wow. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. You pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stats projections, like you'll pick Patrick Mahomes for up to 2 passing touchdowns, or Saquon Barkley for more than 60 yards, and you watch the winnings roll in. I've been using Prize Picks, and it's just so simple. I can make my picks and submit an entry in less than 60 seconds. That's just 1 minute. And the withdrawals, it makes the experience even better. After you win, you definitely don't want to wait. And don't miss out on Taco Tuesdays. That's where selected player projections are discounted up to 25%. Go to prizepicks.com, use my code IUTP to receive a guaranteed $50 when you play just $5. Again, that's prizepicks.com, my code IUTP. If you support the show, sign up for Prize Picks, use my code, and watch the winnings roll in. This is daily fantasy sports made easy. Salute to Prize Picks for supporting the movement, and let's get back to the episode. That is saying something.
So that's why I was so upset about what was going on.
And you know, me and Brian Steele talked during the trial, because I got an interview with Rich Homie Quan where he was speaking about Thug, and him and Thug was, I guess he had never spoke on the record about missing Thug and shit but our conversation he spoke about it.
I think I saw that.
Yeah, because he was in a scenario where they were trying to act like him and Thug had this big beef
trying to
going
act
on.
like it. That was their whole thing,
Right.
was there was some big beef between Rich Homie Quan and Thug.
Yeah. And so whatever was going in the backdrop, but Rich Homie Quan sat next to me and had a genuine moment, genuine conversation. Like, yo, I miss dude. We used to be in the studio vibing.
Yeah.
Like, man, we fell out over some music. This shit is like, I really wish we could get that together. Off of Luchi. Luchi and Thug situation was unfortunate,
For
right?
sure,
They
for
had a
sure.
run in, and it kind of seemed like your run in with Luchi kind of caused you not to be able to be as involved with Thug as you may have wanted to be.
Yeah.
Did you ever miss Thug while he was on that run without you? Slime went on a mean run now.
Listen, a fool one.
Yeah.
Miss him.
Miss is a mean word though.
Listen, miss is a strong word. I'd be lying to say, because I was gonna try to put it a different way, but like I miss them vibes in the yo.
That's what I'm saying.
You see what I'm saying?
Y'all
Like, I can't lie and deny that. I'm like the vibe, like uncomparable. Like can't replay it. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, I always replay it, but can't relive them.
Yeah.
You know
And
what I'm
bro, the sound, you know, it's crazy. Y'all whole situation crazy, because I look at y'all and I look at Boosie and Webby, right? You kind of went before him, kind of like Webby went before Boosie. And it was like, we still partners, we still lost, but I kind of done, one of these done went.
For sure.
You know, and here you on your way. And it's like somewhere it's switched. And I'm saying, damn, why they can't? But I know it's more than meets the eye, right?
For sure.
It's good to hear you say that you missed them times in the yo, because creatively, y'all was smashing shit, bro.
It was hard. It was hard. Like, I can't put my finger on it, man. That shit was just, it was a time to be alive, bro.
Yeah.
You know, and Rich Homie Quan is passed since
And
then.
how sad
so
is that?
RIP to
How
him.
sad. We've lost too many this year.
Right, for
we
sure.
really have.
For sure. So they take Brian Steele to jail, and as you speak about his integrity, I think it shines bright. And a highlight moment of that is, in an unprecedented move, the Bar Association got involved with him being in jail. They're like, oh no.
Yeah, what happened is the Georgia Criminal Defense Lawyers Association, called GACTL, they have this we call it like the elite strike team. If a lawyer gets in that kind of trouble, they descend upon the courtroom.
Like
And they have
SEAL
a team,
Team 6.
Like SEAL Team 6, man. And they do that. They'll do that for anyone, not just Brian.
Right.
But when it was Brian, there must have been 25, 30 criminal defense lawyers that came down
There was some
there.
big wigs too.
Oh, sure. We had Ashley Merchant, who's the
Yeah.
president
Yes.
of Gactel. She's in there because the judge had just balled it all up as far as his ruling.
Yeah.
He confused criminal and civil contempt and mixed them all up together. It was a giant mess.
Just for the record, is it criminal contempt that you held him in?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you said you had a hearing earlier today.
And with criminal contempt, I told him what the contempt was, and that was he refused to tell, order the court. If counsel, as you know, if the court orders you to do something and you don't, that's criminal contempt. So I've asked him several times, please just tell me who it is that told you. I didn't ask or inquire about anything that was said. I just want to know who it was.
Okay.
Because he's got too much detail of this particular alleged conversation for the court to be concerned about it. So.
And Judge, since it is a criminal contempt, he is entitled to due process. He's entitled to a hearing, entitled to an actual show cause, entitled to the allegations actually written, entitled to a witness list. We're entitled to present our own witness list. And
Well, no,
notice of that.
criminal contempt is different. It is on the spot. So he's gotten the due process he's going to get. That's on the spot. I told him. Plus, he's had all day to tell me who it is that is it. So a little different, Ms. Merchant. I'm going to disagree with you, but
Well, and
okay.
Judge, just for the record, it's that's direct. So what you're holding him in is in direct criminal contempt.
Yes.
The issue with the direct criminal contempt is whether or not to actually hold a hearing now, whether or not it needs to be held immediately. And the problem is, if you hold him in direct criminal contempt, as you're saying that you did, you are a witness to that proceeding. And so it has to be referred to another judge. Doesn't require recusal. You actually have to sua sponte send it to another judge because you are a witness to the proceeding.
Show me the case law that says that, Ms.
Yes,
Merchant.
it is Henry McClarty. It's 152 Georgia App 399. And Judge, I'm not the only one here. There's quite a few other lawyers that want to be present in the court. There's about 20, 25.
The challenge is I have space allocations, as I told you. So you can, like I said, since you are representing him, that's fine. He told us, Mr. Steele told us that. Anybody else, because I have security concerns as well, and we have to vet people to come in, then they can go to 8H, and they can certainly watch the proceedings from there.
Okay. And Judge, for security purposes, they're all attorneys. They're all members of the bar. I can give you all their
He
names.
still would have to be searched and still would have to be subject to the court's protocols.
And also, there's room in the jury box, and then there's room in the courtroom. So we would ask that they be
I
allowed to.
don't want them in my jury box, okay? No.
I understand. May one additional attorney come in, then Alex Susser. And we're here on behalf of Gactel for our strike force. He is the chair of the strike force. I'm the president of the Georgia Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers and also a member of the strike force. So can he come in as another attorney co-counsel? And
I distinguish your two cases that you've given me thus far.
so those were only the initial two. I had a couple others.
Okay, go ahead.
As well. Yes. So Ramirez versus State, it's 279 Georgia 13, 2005. It also
You said 279 Georgia what, I'm sorry?
Georgia 13.
Georgia 13?
Mm-hmm. It's a 2005 case.
Right.
And it defines direct contempt and explains that it must actually interfere with the proceedings to be direct. There's also a couple other cases on that.
No.
He cannot be held in the law states, McClarty, which I cited to you earlier.
And it is true that direct summary contempt, which arises in the presence of the court, intends to scandalize it and or hinder or obstruct the orderly process of the administration of justice. The preservation of order and decorum of the court is exempt from due process requirements of notice and hearing. That's even Moody. It goes back to 1974. So I believe that Mr. Steele's, he can file whatever motions, but his particular actions in this case, I just want to know who told him this. That's all. I'm not asking him to release or otherwise tell any conversations, but I just want him to tell me that.
And Judge, so that's what you want, but that does not conflate to a contempt. Your desire for him to answer your question does not mean that you have the power to hold him in contempt.
So you can come into court, Mr. Merchant, and not answer a question of the court and not be held in contempt? This is a question the court's permitted to ask.
And it's our position, if we had a hearing, we could explain to the court why he is not required. First of all, the court accused him of eavesdropping. That is a crime. He has a Fifth Amendment privilege against answering those questions. Rule 1.6 protects all confidential information that is gained not from your client, but in representation of your client. He has the ability to protect that information. But we don't even need to get there, because he can't be held in contempt, and you can't threaten him with contempt for presenting a motion in good faith. He presented a motion in good faith that he believed there were ex parte communications. You are a witness to that, because it's my understanding that you were part of those ex parte communications. They can't be ex parte if you weren't part of them, by nature.
Okay. Well,
You have to be involved. Therefore, you have to be a witness. So you are a witness. You cannot also
but you got the
summarily hold him in
information.
contempt.
But here's the thing. You got the information allegedly from an improper methodology. I'm not saying that he eavesdropped. Okay. I said that one of the things is it's either one of two ways.
So, Ashley had to get them there and straighten them out. It was, I have to tell you, being relatively new to criminal law just over the past 3 years or so, the criminal defense bar, criminal defense lawyers, the tightness of this group, the camaraderie, the respect, the teamwork. I haven't seen that in the areas of law I've practiced in before.
Right.
And it is really special. And it was all brought home to me on that day. That's why we took a picture outside on the courthouse steps. A lot of us did.
Right.
Because it was so great to see. And we talk about our criminal defense brothers and sisters, because that's kind of how we feel about each other.
Yeah.
If I know if I need anything, any help with anything, I can go and ask a question. I'm going to get 10 people to help me out.
Right.
That's why I'm a little more comfortable going out on my own.
Right. Yeah.
I got these people out there.
I think, bro, I like that camaraderie too. Like to see, like, oh, that's what I expected.
Yeah, you
like,
mess with us.
Yeah,
I don't want to say it's like the Marines. We used to joke in college about like you mess with some Marine kid, you're going to get like 100 Marines around you.
That's a fact.
And you mess with a criminal defense lawyer like what happened to Brian Steele, and we're going to be there for you.
And they're going to be filing paperwork to paperwork. It's going to be all kind of stuff going on.
Yeah, you don't mess with us unless you got. I mean, you better have your shit together.
Yeah, for sure.
Seriously, we can talk Woody.
Yeah. What do you like about Lil Woody?
I like who Woody is now. I like that. Of course, he's out there living his best life, right? You can't deny that.
Right.
And he's making all he can out of his 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah.
And you know what? This is America. More power to him for that. But he's not just doing that. I mean, and I don't think this is bullshit. People may think it's bullshit. I don't think it's bullshit, because I've talked to him and I've seen him. He's going to church. He's getting baptized. I think that's real.
Yeah.
I think that's real. I've looked that man in the eyes. Now, he could disappoint me. People have disappointed me before, but I think that's real. And I see him talking to young men, saying, don't do this shit, respect your elders. He's out there in the community doing that. So I respect that too. So I have respect for that.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, do you think his word hold any weight over there where he's saying that?
I don't know.
I mean, his neighborhood, I don't know. If it seems like from the outside looking in, it seems like he can move around his neighborhood freely and okay.
He seems to be.
Yeah,
he's not hiding.
Yeah. But what about, I mean, again, we talked about how Judge Glanville wouldn't allow him to testify on his own terms, because for him, again, it felt like he wasn't corroborating what the state had put forward, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. I wonder. We talked about Montauk and the immunity, so I just want to kind of talk about how they dangled the immunity the testimony.
Let me explain it, because I think a lot of people don't understand. That immunity isn't so much dangled. They throw that shit at you, and you don't have a choice. You don't ask for it. Seriously, you don't ask for it. Woody didn't ask for immunity. No, and Montauk, whoever else got stuck with that, they just
what?
Yeah, you don't ask for that. They just give it to you. It's not a gift. I shouldn't say give it to you. It's like a giant pile of shit, and they throw it at you. You don't ask for it, and it sticks to you, and you can't say, "No, I'm cool. I don't want immunity." You didn't know that? That's the way it works.
Hell no.
That's not the way. People need to know that.
Yeah.
That's not the way it works.
So you telling me the immunity is like the franchise tag in football, where it's like, wow.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's like. They're like, boom, You have immunity. And you're like, well, damn, I want to take the Fifth. I don't want to testify. No, fuck you. I'm sorry. We're going to give you immunity.
Bro.
And they don't have a choice. So it's not like Woody's like, well, you give me immunity and I'll testify. That's not what happened.
Did you know this, bro?
Yeah, that's the truth. That's the way immunity works. That's the way immunity works.
Is this universal or just in
Oh, yeah, it's universal.
Man, I didn't know
So when
this.
you see people, now, I'm sure there's times that some people may say,
Right,
well, you
requested,
give me
of course.
But this wasn't requested by Woody.
So you saying Woody, wow. So that kind of changes things, right? So you saying, okay, but Woody agreed to testify.
No, he had no choice. Well, okay, let me explain, all right? They presented him. They put immunity. Let's say given immunity. They put immunity on him. So he had a choice at that point. He did have a choice. Testify or, because he has immunity, you can't take the Fifth. Testify or go to jail. And you're going to sit in jail maybe until this trial is over.
Yo, that's a hell of a trick, man.
Right?
That's a hell of a trick.
That's what
I
they
didn't
do
know
to you.
that.
So they strip immunity. When they put it on you, it strips your Fifth Amendment rights away.
Yeah, but
Doesn't seem right, does it? But that's the law.
I didn't know that, bro. You just blew me. You just blew my mind with that, bro.
Yeah.
Just damn. So
So I want people to watch that. When you see someone getting immunity, your folks should listen. That's not necessarily because they asked for it. Sometimes, as a matter of fact, they don't do that shit to me. I don't want your immunity. I want to take the Fifth.
So if Woody didn't have immunity, what happens with this case?
If he didn't have immunity, then he could still testify. But the reality is he doesn't want to testify to stuff that could get him in trouble. So he's going to take the Fifth. So if he didn't have immunity, he would take the Fifth. Now, what would happen with this case? He was such a good witness for us. I don't know that we'd get the same result without Kenneth Copeland.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Because I'd like to think we would, because I'd like to think the jury, but Kenneth Copeland did the best job of any witness of explaining why he lied to the cops, how he lied to the cops, the way he went about it, the reasoning, all of that. So the jury could understand, okay, so when you play those videos of interrogation videos, right? I know now what's going on there. That's just someone looking to stay at
He kind of gave him a storyline.
So
what would y'all defense would have been had he not presented it such? He kind of presented his position the way you presented the you cannot fix this. He with the I'm finessing them just because I don't want to go to jail.
Oh.
What would have been y'all defense had he not took that position?
All the material that we had that showed he was lying in those interrogation videos.
Yeah.
You know, all the lies about where he was, what he was doing.
What are some of the lies that people don't know that
well,
maybe you found in discovery?
Again, he was truthful on the stand, but some of those things he told the cops.
That's what I'm speaking about. Not
some
on
of
the
those
stand,
things
of
he
course
told,
not on the stand.
Told the cops about, oh, we all met up at McDonald's and we got in the McDonald's. This guy hopped in my car and said those guys just shot nut. Those were all lies. The stuff about cars, how that happened, that was a lie. He was the one that was in the Infinity, you know, not these other guys.
Right.
The Infinity was the Infinity was rented by Thug to help out Woody. Woody's the guy in the Infinity.
Right.
He's putting all these other guys in the Infinity. I mean, you guys were talking about why are you selling out your brother, right? Why are you selling out your man? And it's just wrong, right?
Yeah.
And I took that out on some of the witnesses, right? I can't remember who it was. I don't think it was Moontunk. It was somebody else that I'm like, I told that guy, I'm like, you went to the cops and you lied on Diamante. You lied on him. Why would you do that? And whoever that was, and I'm sorry, it's been a while, but whoever that was said, you know, I don't know. He showed me nothing but love.
Wow.
You know, he showed me nothing but love, but I did. But we had all kinds of things to use in the cross-examination of Woody that we'd have torn him up.
I wonder, did you feel like we're going to get the same version of him? Like we're going to get a difficult, not want to answer questions? Because again, I guess because of the way you guys treated him, when he spoke with y'all, it wasn't the Like he would get him certain looks and shit,
Yeah.
just like, "What's up with you, motherfucker?
Yeah.
Bag up, you like you stink and shit." He was doing all kind of wild shit.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't wild about that.
Yeah, he was going, and so I was wondering, is he pouring too much? Is how the jury was receiving some of his
Yeah.
antics.
I mean, I believe in all aspects of life, you should treat people with respect.
right?
Most, if you can. And so, I mean, I wasn't happy with some of his antics up
Right.
there on the stand.
Yeah.
I wasn't.
Right.
You know.
But
I
you
didn't
would have
like
tore
that
him up.
smell.
You would have tore him up though if you had to cross examine him.
But you know what? My version of tearing up, people say comes across as like a disappointed dad. But
Right.
but that's the closest I can get to
Yeah.
like. But yeah.
But
I
it
mean,
resonates because everybody done dealt with a disappointed dad.
I mean, it's genuine.
You got to resonate with the jury.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
And Max tore some people apart.
Yeah,
you
he
know?
sure did.
He really did.
Yeah,
Max is a bulldog.
yeah.
So he did a good job of that. But I was prepared to rip Kenneth Copeland apart
Yeah.
if he'd have gotten up there and told the same lies on the stand that he told to the cops. Because it's not my job to look after Kenneth Copeland when he's on the stand. My job is to protect Diamante, to protect Yak.
Does Yak Gotti look at Woody like a snitch?
You'd have to ask him that. I'll let you ask him that.
Yeah,
Because
I
hopefully he'll
assume
be
that.
out soon.
Yeah, he'll be out soon.
I'm not going to speak for him.
I just wonder how because I'm wondering if, you know, I mean, he clearly said a bunch of. It's a crazy.
I mean, nobody's. I'm not going to say how he views him, but it's
Yeah.
like what you were talking about earlier. You got a guy that's part of your circle, and you think is a friend or whatever, you know, has some degree of loyalty or whatever it is. And then they go to the police and tell all that bullshit.
Right.
I mean, how are you going to feel?
Right. Nah, I'm not gonna
I
feel
mean,
good.
how are you going to feel?
I was actually told on, so I don't play. That's why
Yeah.
that's why I be by myself. Like,
Yeah.
'cause somebody that I helped for a long time set
Yeah.
me up and put me in a situation where I was like, damn, you crossed me and put me in this. Like,
I mean, you look at these guys. They were in jail from May of 22 until fall of 24 because a bunch of folks got out there and told lies.
that's what I'm saying. That's
I
what
mean,
dude done to me.
I get it.
Yeah, that
I
dude
do.
done to me, and I ended up having to bite the bullet because he pulled up and gave me a bunch of money.
Yeah.
You know, but he ended up getting the money from the police.
But
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like when they get me, I got all this money. I'm saying, dude owed me some money. He just paid me the money. I ain't gave him nothing.
Yeah.
They trying to act like I gave him something. You know what I'm saying? They played
Yeah.
me to the. I ain't gave the boy nothing. He just
Yeah.
pulled up, but they didn't have no wire. It was a crazy
Yeah.
case, man. Like he. What is a confidential informant? Do you know that?
What a
that
CI is?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what a CI
Do they
is.
have to have credentials? Is a snitch and a CI different? I'm trying to give the public.
First of all, I don't use the word snitch. I'm just.
So I guess I'm not. I guess I'm using snitch in the traditional.
I think what's I think if you use the traditional term snitch, it's someone who was involved in something or pretended to be involved in something or lied about being involved in something, and then they go to the cops and they start talking, right? A CI is someone who kind of enters a situation already cooperating, right? They're already cooperating with the police, and
They have credentials.
They have the credentials, and they're in there gathering intelligence for law enforcement, right? And the worst part about a CI is, I think, it's not just that they're doing that, but a lot of times I think they're setting people up.
Deceptive, yeah.
They're
It's
setting
just
people up.
entrapment.
A little bit, not legally, but
Right.
the way we all think about it.
Exactly.
It's a little bit
Not
of
in the
entrapment going on there,
yeah.
and it's just a little dirty.
Because that's what I was arguing in my cases. Like I had a guy by the name of Richard McGee out of Tennessee, heavy hitter, and I'm trying to argue the fact that, bro, like he bugged me. Like this dude was bugging me, bothering me. Like I ain't even.
Yeah. Sometimes these CIs will go and they'll push people to do shit they wouldn't be doing
Yes,
otherwise.
I was like, bro, I'm minding my business.
Right, because they want to get that money basically
That
they
payment.
can spend. They
Yeah.
can use that to get a better deal here,
Right.
to get a better deal
Yeah.
there. That's why it's like, look, where's your camera? Right there?
Yes.
Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
Facts.
Don't talk to the police.
Right.
It's not going to help you. Okay?
Yeah. Let
It's not
people
gonna
like you
help
do the
you.
talking.
We'll talk. You're never, ever going to talk your way out of something by talking to the police. And they're going to take your words and they're going to twist them and they're going to play stuff out of context. And they do it all the time.
They got mad at me on the scene when they did this whole bust thing where I had this money on me from this dude.
Yeah.
And they got upset with me because I wouldn't admit to what they were like. They pulled detectives up on the scene and opened the door. Look, man, it ain't that serious. Just tell me what. Bro, I don't know what you talking about. He dude owed me some money. I ain't gave him none. They wanted me to like admit it. I'm like, bro, what are you saying? They even, bro, this was so crazy. They even shut the doors and cut the heat on. It was the summertime. And I'm sitting in there. This was after George Floyd or somebody had died. I can't remember who it was.
Yeah.
But I was sitting there like, and I'm looking at the cameras like, bro, if something happened to me, like, what my family gonna do? Like, they mad at me because they think that I made some big sale up here at this store.
Yeah.
By the time they get me, I got the money from this dude, and I'm just like, bro, this ain't what y'all saying it is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They ended up taking me down for that.
They'll do that stuff.
Yeah, this shit was craziness, man. So, yeah, but I want to get back to this immunity thing because I think this is something.
I blew your mind with
bro,
that, huh?
This is
it's crazy, right?
Wow.
So they strip your Fifth Amendment rights away. They give you immunity, and you can either testify or you can sit in jail. That's your choice.
What qualifies you to get immunity?
The state basically files, and this is, by the way, defense attorneys are not involved in this, okay, at all. The state files something with the judge that basically says, here are the reasons we need to give this guy immunity. Please give him immunity. And then the judge, boom. Gives
Are
him
you
immunity.
saying that
We don't even get that motion, that paper that the prosecution files and the judge's order till like later. We don't see it ahead of time.
If I'm keeping my intellectual honesty, right?
Uh-huh.
I don't know if I know any of my. I don't know if I know a lot of people that will go to jail for years. You see,
And that's what
without
Kenneth,
and not tell on me,
right.
You know what I'm saying?
And that's what Kenneth was looking at.
Cause I done already been told on, so I know all these niggas playing. They if it get strong enough, they gonna tell it. Yeah. Not everybody.
Yeah.
Cause there's real ones out there, but there's a high percentage, man. It's watered down now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I just, man, it almost feels like you're telling me that Woody isn't the traditional snitch that people is, because if they snatch your immunity, I can't co-sign it.
Look, if you want to call him a snitch for the stuff he did in 2015 when he was talking to the
right,
cops,
he a
I
ref
get
for
that.
Yeah,
I get that.
Yeah.
But I don't think you can call him a snitch for being on the stand and having. I keep saying it's not really no choice. It's his choice is jail or testify. That's it. That's it. And they showed him what jail would be like. They gave him a sneak preview. They put him in DeKalb County in a terrible, terrible condition. Flies all over his food. The toilet backed up. No clean water. I mean, that's like, and they're like, okay, you don't want to testify. We'll give you a taste of it.
Did any of the other people that
Can't
testified?
believe it's America.
That's
Can't
so
believe it's
crazy,
America, right?
Bro.
I know.
Did any of the other people that testified? Did they have the same type
There
deal?
were a few others that had immunity as well, but I'm going to have trouble recalling which ones right now.
But some of them did have.
Yeah, some of them had it. They had no choice.
What the fuck,
Yeah.
son?
Yeah.
I never really heard of utilizing immunity, really.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it, like all the cases that I know from people all my entire life, I've never heard the term immunity be used. So
you know
that's
what it
why I
is,
didn't
but
know.
now that you know about it and how it works, I bet you're going to see it all the time. I mean, you'll recognize it now.
Right.
And you'll say,
So
damn,
it's like when
that
you
guy
get a red
wasn't
car.
testifying because he wanted to. That guy's testifying because they threw immunity on him.
Yeah, he's rocking hard place type of thing.
Total. That's the right rock in a hard place.
Whoa.
Yep.
Whoa.
Yep.
And they were, how many years were they offering him into the entire trial? 3, 4, 5, 6 years?
Judge Glanville told him he was going to sit there till not just this first YSL trial was over, but until every defendant had been tried or pled out.
Was it, so after the secret meeting, did it shake your trust for the court system?
Not for the court system. It shook my trust in Judge Glanville, which was already on shaky ground to begin with.
Right.
It really did.
Wow.
Again, and I'll say here what I said before. I mean, I like Judge Glanville. I've always respected Judge Glanville, and I don't know what the hell happened in this case.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Yeah. Did he retire?
No, he's still serving his term.
What about the prosecution?
I mean, they still got their jobs. DA Willis, Fani Willis, came out in support of her prosecutors when all this was over.
Regrets? Was it worth all the trouble?
It's always worth the trouble. The reality is, as you know, I have aggressively prosecuted gang violence, and there is no one above or below the law.
Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis says though she did not agree on a deal for a plea with attorneys for Jeffrey Williams, better known as megastar hip-hop artist Young Thug, she's choosing not to publicly voice whether she agrees or disagrees with the sentence. Fulton Superior Court Judge Paige Reese Whitaker.
Sentencing was in the hands of Judge Whitaker.
Handed down after Williams entered a non-negotiated plea in which he pled guilty to every charge he faced in the YSL case, except for 2 to which he pled nolo contendere, or no contest, which she says is similar to a guilty plea, except when it comes to civil lawsuits.
You poured a lot of resources, took a lot of flack on this case.
You shouldn't be the district attorney if you're not willing to take flack. The reality is the world has been caught up with one defendant, but we indicted 28 defendants. 14 of those defendants are now disposed of cases. We have 14 more defendants to go, and so we are going to continue to pursue justice in that case.
Ms. Willis says though Young Thug exited the Fulton County Jail soon after his plea in a car driven by one of his attorneys, he had already done a substantial amount of time in jail while awaiting or going through his trial.
He's been in jail almost 3 years, so that is not a walk in the park.
She says there is room for accountability in the complicated sentence involving 5 years commuted to time served, followed by 15 years probation, to be followed by a, quote, backloaded 20-year prison term, which will also be commuted to time served if he successfully completes the probation, which is loaded with lots of special conditions.
Hope springs eternal that he will do well, because if not, he's going to land himself in prison for another 20 years.
The DA says video from gang murder cases unrelated to Williams we reported on last week underscores that gangs are a major driver of crime here.
And if you can see the news interviews, she'll tell you that this was a big win.
Yeah.
But that's the old declare victory and go home, right, when you're losing.
Right. What do you say in response to some of the media press runs that she has done?
I'll tell you this. She's gotten out there and she's talked about how she's gone after YSL and after YFN, that the crime rate has dropped in Atlanta. And I'll tell you the same thing that I've told some other folks that have asked me about it. Crime is down throughout virtually every metropolitan area in the U.S. Every single one, crime is down since 2022. You can look at, these aren't statistics I just made up.
Right.
These are from like the Major Cities Chiefs Association.
Right.
I mean, they've got these stats out. You can find them on Google. It's down everywhere. So when when DA Willis comes out and says, because of what I've done, crime is down, I mean, I just say she's the rooster that crowed in the morning because she thinks she made the sun rise. Yeah. Now, one of her responses to me has been, where does he live? In other words, I'm not down on Cleveland Avenue.
Right, so you can't
I'm not
speak
down
to
dealing with it, and I shouldn't speak to
alienate.
it. Right, I'm up in Dunwoody, Sandy Springs. Right,
Right.
I'm not dealing with this crime and this stuff. So she thinks I have no place. Presumably, I have no place to speak on this.
Yeah.
But you know what? I don't think Fani Willis is living on Cleveland Avenue either.
That's a good point. That's a great point. Matter of fact, we know she's not. With some of the decisions she's made, it wouldn't be smart to live in the neighborhood, especially on Cleveland.
And
Ave.
look, I admire efforts to reduce crime.
Yeah, for sure.
To make these parts of town that are crime-ridden safer for people.
Right.
Kids shouldn't be getting shot in their home
At
because
all.
of a drive-by. Nobody should be getting shot because of this stuff. I mean, I have a radical view on guns. I mean, I'd take everybody's guns and melt them down if it were up to me. I don't have that choice. But anyway, that's why I'm unelectable. But anyway, I admire that stuff. But are the millions and millions and millions of dollars that were spent on this unsuccessful YSL, if those would have been used for other purposes, I think the streets would be better off now, and I think crime would be lower. I think these funds were misspent.
Wow,
that's
a
my
great
view.
point. That is a great point.
Yeah.
I think for her to be so vocal at the beginning and then to come up missing in the courtroom process, is that normal for the DA, for someone of that stature to not be involved in the trial?
When was this case brought? 2022, right?
Yes.
When was the murder of Donovan Thomas? 2015, January of 2015. They've had these names of people that they've thought had did this for 6 years before they brought this case, right? But why did they wait to bring it? It's because the previous DA, Paul Howard, knew that their witnesses were not credible. It shouldn't be brought. So he didn't bring this case. Why? Because it's a bullshit case. So
do you think that because there was some allegations, I also had a guy named Mondo on my show. And
I know.
There was some allegations that him and Fani Willis had some interactions prior
You know,
to.
I am very anti-gossip, and I haven't seen any evidence to support that.
Well, I'm saying she represented him.
She did represent him.
Yeah, that's what I'm speaking
about.
about.
Oh, yeah, she represented him, but there was some other talk as well. There's all kinds of talk about all kinds of things. But
yeah, I heard Trump mention some things, right? He mentioned some allegations that we don't get
There's
into.
a lot of allegations I don't want to get into.
But what I'm speaking to, though, I guess
you mean like
question,
why wasn't Mondo in the indictment?
No. Well, I think my question is, because it's rolling off of what you said about Paul Howard. My question is that by Paul Howard not pulling the trigger and Fani pulling the trigger, did her relationship with some of the YSL members, not romantically relationship, I'm saying professional relationship, give her insight to want to, look a little bit further into this?
That's a great question. I don't know the answer to it. And
because what will motivate her when the DA prior to her says that, hey, these witnesses are shaky, there's no need to do this?
Well, I'll give you what could motivate her: political ambition.
That is true.
Right?
That is true.
You go after President Trump.
That's true.
To make the Democrats happy, maybe.
That's
you
true.
go after these alleged gangs to maybe get some Republican votes, and then you run for Senate next year.
Right. That's true. Let's get into the Miss Love accusing Brian Steele of mishandling evidence.
Altering
evidence.
Evidence.
I'm sorry.
She accused him in open court with really no basis of having received some evidence that he had asked for from another county and altering that evidence.
Judge Glanville.
Sir.
You allow another moment when Miss Love calls me that I did not do something. They have the exact image of what we got from the jail in Fayette County. That is it. And if I get another false allegation and you do nothing, I'm shocked. I'm appalled at you. I sit here day after day with this false allegation, just machine. I gave the state everything. There's been no disconstruction. There's been no purposeful. I don't care. I give over everything. I've done this for 33 years. Never in my life have I seen a trial. I've done 300 appeals in the state of Georgia alone. I've never read a case like this. Judge, I gave them everything I had. I waited. I was at my office till 8. After 8 last night, I waited for their investigator to come by. I handed him an exact copy of thumb drive. They have everything that we got from the Fayette County Jail. There's been no deconstruction. There's been no purposeful exclusion. This is not the first time. Okay. And I apologize that I'm getting tempered, but I've never been treated like this. You talk about professionalism every week. Professionalism is lacking with one lawyer here. It has never been. I don't even like coming to court. I used to love this. I would die for what we do. I used to say, I'm dying. I would die. I couldn't choose a better profession. If I had litigated with Miss Love, I would.
Your Honor, could we strike the
No,
hominem attack?
no, I'm speaking.
Really, could we strike that?
Okay, hey, everybody, calm down. Everybody, both of you, please be seated.
Judge, I'm not
Both
done.
of you, please be seated.
You have to do something. You have threatened me with contempt. You have threatened me with jail. If you go back in time, we can just start in voir dire. Jury after jury, you did individual voir dire painfully. Miss Love would come in and say that juror was crying. It was not true. You would say, that's not my recollection after I said it. You did nothing. We start the case.
But Mr. Steele,
I asked you, please.
Mr. Steele.
Judge, how would you feel if you were being treated
Mr.
like
Steele.
this?
Mr. Steele.
Well, I'd like to finish.
Mr. Steele.
I gave them everything on that drive, and it's continual abuse of a prosecutor, of another member of the bar. I don't talk with Miss Love. And that's fine. I like that. But Judge, I'm not going to stand here anymore. I don't care. You can take my bar card.
Mr. Steele, listen.
Wrong, though.
But there.
And Mr. Williams, to me, this is an innocent man. You talk about, Miss Love said, There's a man in the Fulton County Jail who shouldn't be there, Mr. Copeland. Mr. Williams shouldn't be in custody. But he's been charged, and we come here for a fair trial. It's been everything but that, according to Miss Love has tried to demonize me. At times, Mr. Adams. At times, Mr. Shaw.
I object to
Now
the ad
it's
hominem
Mr.
attacks, and I ask
All
for
because she wants to
Again,
win a
from the
case. And now she speaks over people. It's not right. I gave them everything. And by the way, and what I want to tell you, by the way, it's not even the law. If they call that gentleman on direct, I don't have to give them anything before trial. I do it because you asked me to.
Received some evidence that he had asked for from another county and altering that evidence.
In what way?
Stripping out some information from it.
And then submitting it to the court.
And then, yeah, submitting it to her, and you're going to be using it in trial. And there's no basis for that allegation. And I hate to even mention it again because it's so scurrilous. You know, it's just crap.
Right.
But that's one example. She was repeatedly, really, impugning the integrity of Brian Steele, which just I don't know where that comes from.
Because
and
you almost
you talk about the tight criminal defense bar, that really offended me.
Right.
Really offended me.
You almost have to, because he's too he's too. You got to try to bring him down some. If you're not if you're an upstanding person, but I'm saying in a fight, in a battle, she's looking at perception, if you ask me. And the reason I say this is because they played to the cameras for a long time. There were faces made to the jury. There were noises. What were y'all thinking about that? Because there was a long time where Miss Love and the rest of those prosecutors would sit next to the jury and blurt things out.
Yeah, and we had some problems with that, with the expressions that would come off Miss Love. There was another prosecutor that would make a lot of expressions. We complained about, I think Keith Adams complained about that a few times. And I think Judge Whitaker, actually, she's the one that ended up with the right answer, which is, well, the jury can see what they're doing and they can take from that what they want.
Yes.
And when we interviewed the jury at the end of this trial, when it was over, you can talk to some jurors. Maybe.
I'm gonna have 36 on.
Yeah,
I'm
you
gonna
can talk
them.
to, but they did not take that well. They did not like that, all those expressions and
I can't wait to see
else
what
coming.
it was like back there when the first day Woody got on, or when they got pulled out. Like, I can't wait to get into that with him, as well as how I've got into it with you. Just, you're opening my eyes to like all these different aspects of the trial that I'm sure people really don't know. And I don't like to do interviews. I like to have conversations.
Sure,
that's
and
why
what
it
this
comes
feels
out.
like. I enjoy this.
And this is so much better for even the viewers, bro, because it doesn't seem all like, it's just bad. Oh, he's
chatting.
A person.
Yeah.
This is what made Trump win the election, is because he went and in hour 2, they get to see exactly who this guy is versus all your talking points are gone now.
Yeah.
All of your little chit chatter that you had is gone. Now I'm actually seeing who Doug is and what he stands for. And one thing that's consistent with you is that you're riding for your client.
Oh, yeah.
100%. I'm telling dudes that this dude right here, I feel spirits. I can feel it. I can feel it that if you get a connection with this guy, he gonna fight for you like.
Well, I mean, my clients deserve nothing less. I mean, look, so when I was a civil litigator exclusively in federal court, I did huge cases, right? Multi-billion-dollar cases.
Wow.
Apple versus Google, basically, and all this other stuff.
You did that? We got to get into that.
I was on the Google side.
We're going to get into that. Okay.
I was on the Google side of it, representing
we'll get into
HTC. But
that.
anyway, that's kind of boring.
No, it's not.
But see, that's money.
Right.
Okay? And I thought that was a big deal, and I was all important because I was doing this big money stuff. This is so much more important. Yes. I mean, this isn't bullshit. People think, oh, that's bullshit. It's people's lives. That guy sitting next to me, that's his life. And fortunately, I don't know what prison's like, and I never want to know what prison's like.
Right.
But if you want to send my guy to prison, you better prove it, because I'm going to do everything I can to make it as difficult as possible, and make you do your damn job.
Right. And back to Brian Steele and her trying to impede on his integrity.
Oh, yeah.
I think what was interesting is that Judge Whitaker, because we're off Glanville now, he's been recused.
Right.
We now have Whitaker. Whitaker openly in court made a statement criticizing Love, saying, yo, you've been mishandling evidence or like hiding evidence or playing some sort of, gotcha game at the end.
Yeah.
What would you say to that?
People looking back on the trial or toward the end will say, well, Judge Whitaker clearly didn't like the prosecutors, was kind of against them. But that's not the reality of it, really. What really happened is she went in there not biased toward anybody, with no real opinion. I mean, Judge Whitaker's a former prosecutor. The position the prosecution got themselves in with Judge Whitaker was a position of their own making. They put themselves in that position. They destroyed their credibility with the court. I tell all my clients this. I have the coin of the realm. What you carry and spend in court is your credibility. I do everything I can. I keep that credibility held tight. And if I'm going to file a motion, if I'm going to do something, you spend your credibility when you do that, right? You spend it.
Yes.
And I'm not going to spend it unwisely.
Right.
So you may want me to make some motion, and you may get pissed off because I don't want to make it.
Right.
But that's
it's a lot of lawyers that go through that. What dudes is like, yo, file a motion, that shit ain't right. And they're like, yeah, but and some lawyers should be filing those motions.
Yeah.
I know guys who have paid lawyers a lot of money.
Yeah.
And then as they get 4, 5, 6 years into their time, they start to feel, he should have filed a.
Well, we make mistakes. I mean, we're humans. I make mistakes all the time.
Right.
But my point is, I'm careful with my credibility. The prosecutors in this case destroyed their credibility with Judge Whitaker. And so to the degree she developed some disrespect for them and that she would say things like, get frustrated with them.
Yes.
They earned that. They earned that.
Yes.
They worked to get that.
Yes. She said she criticized Love, suggesting she was either withholding information or she was just merely disorganized.
Yeah, you're either disorganized and incompetent or you're intentionally hiding the ball. I think that's the word she used.
Yes.
You're intentionally hiding the ball.
Right.
And that's the truth.
Right.
That's the truth. And it may have been a bit of a combination.
Right.
They were fairly disorganized.
Let me ask you this. How did the YFN Luchi case intertwine with this case, if at all?
Not really at all. I think if a little bit more of that may have come in had Mr. Huey's case proceeded and he hadn't pled out when he did. So
what would have made
there was some
people who don't know?
There were some instances between Mr. Huey and some YFN folks that would have been introduced into the trial. And because he pled out, that ended up not coming in. And I wasn't as well versed in that area because that was Mr. Huey and Mr. Matthews Sr. and Jr. were his lawyers, and they were totally up on that part of the case. And there was I'm sure Max knew it because Max knew everything.
Right.
But that part of the elephant wasn't mine. I was leaving it up to them.
Right.
But I think some of the YFN stuff would have come in then.
So from your understanding, at the beginning of Thug trial, did Luchi ever have a chance to give information or cooperate?
No, I don't know if he was ever given the chance to do that, but I never saw anything come in
that will help. That will validate him testifying.
I never saw anything come in that would have been from Luchi to help the state in the case against YSL. I saw nothing.
So how could they have a RICO about the beef between these two gentlemen or these two entities, for lack of a better term?
Yeah.
And then not present anything that the so-called head of the other organization could
well, they got into some of that. They got into some stabbings at the jail that took place between, where a YFN guy was stabbed.
Right.
So they got into it a little
things.
bit.
Yeah.
But they'd have gotten into it more if Huey would have stayed there.
Okay.
But by this point, by that point in the case, Miss Love had pretty much been removed. Everybody.
So there was a point where Miss Love stopped showing up to court.
Yeah, the last
month. Why did that happen?
You'd have to ask D.A. Willis why that happened.
If you had to guess.
I guess because Judge Whitaker got so sideways with her. so frustrated with her.
Yes.
I imagine they made the tactical decision to pull her back.
Right.
She came maybe once or twice toward the end, but that was all, and to move Adam Abate forward.
Right.
So it was
And I
probably
think-
a wise choice. on
I
their
don't
part.
know, man. They lost a dog. 'Cause
Yeah.
she was a dog in there now.
But it wasn't helping them.
It wasn't, well.
It wasn't helping them.
You don't think so?
The jury,
Yeah, from
at that point, when I talked to the jurors, they did not care for her.
But she wouldn't shut up when they say, ma'am. She'd be like, but she keep it coming. She's arguing for her side.
I know. And that's why I said that she could talk the ears off a donkey, right?
Yeah, you did say that.
To present. I appreciate Your Honor giving me the moment to speak. Thank you.
Your Honor, I apologize for interrupting the state earlier, but the state can talk the ears off a donkey. This continued filibustering has got to stop so that opposing counsel can speak.
Here's and I'll tell you why I did that. She had this game she would play with Judge Glanville very successfully, which is she'd argue something, and if she lost, she'd just keep arguing until Judge Glanville would change his mind.
Yeah.
And I had won that argument. Argument, and I saw her doing her thing. Just go, and she filibusters. In other words, she just talks and
Word
talks and
salad.
talks.
Yeah.
And she doesn't let her opponent say a word. And by the way, with most judges, you couldn't get away with that crap.
Right.
But
They'll shut it down.
They'd shut it down. But that was her tactic. And I thought, if I don't get up here and cut this woman off, she's going to do it again. She's going to get Judge Glanville to change his mind.
Right.
And I wanted that evidence kept out.
And there was another point where you were straightforward and you wasn't sitting on your hands like, oh my God, she's doing it again. See, some people will be like, oh my God, here she, but they wouldn't say anything.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You stood up, Your Honors, here she is again with this, and you just went right there with
I mean, I had to interrupt her because
Yeah.
if I wouldn't have interrupted her,
she's doing
she
the
was
1-2
gonna get
again.
him. She was going to get him to change his mind.
Right.
And
that's so crazy.
And
that is so crazy.
And it's really rude to interrupt another lawyer in court. And I maybe I've done it, but I don't remember ever having done it other than that circumstance.
Right.
Because that was too important to let go.
Right. Where does the YSL trial stand at this point today? Is it all done?
No. Well, our trial is done. They've got 3 more people on trial right now, or 3 more people about to go on trial. And I think other than those 3 people, with the other 25, there were 28 defendants initially. I think 25 have been resolved, and all they have left are these 3 on trial. And I think all of them are charged with RICO, and one of them also is charged with the murder of Donovan Thomas.
What was Yak Gotti's, or what was your position, your feeling, when Thug is now about to plea out? Because when Thug pleads out, if you ask me, you lose a lot of the viewership, a lot of the interest. You lose some of the people who cover it every day. What was you guys feeling?
My biggest concern with Thug pleading out was losing the resources that Thug and Brian Steele brought to that courtroom, losing the brilliance of Keith Adams and Brian Steele as being part of our defense team. I don't want to say we were kneecapped, but I felt, oh my gosh, we are losing our star quarterback and best wide receiver, right?
Yes.
That's who we're losing. They're taking that away from us.
Right.
And I mean, Max and I just thought, man, we have got to step up our game.
I know that was scary, though.
We got to step it up. And I'll tell you the good thing, though. All these other defense attorneys whose folks pled out, they all told us, we're still here for you. Anything you need, you let us know.
Right.
Whatever it is, we got your back.
Did you believe that, or would you utilize that? That's a 2-part question.
Yeah, it is. I totally believed it because the amount of trust, the brotherhood and sisterhood, the tightness that our defense team developed during that trial was tremendous. And so I totally believed them. I had no reason to doubt them. And I did call on them from time to time. I called on Mr. Matthews for some help regarding some allegations against Huey that were going to come in. I know I talked to Brian and Keith about things. I talked to Nicole Westmoreland. I think I pretty much talked to talked to everybody and got some help at various times from most folks there.
Right. So for people who don't know how this played out, Thug pleas, where does your client stand on the day what Thug pleas as far as his trial, his positioning?
I'm going to sit back here a minute.
Yeah,
That's
do your
okay.
thing. Do your thing.
Get comfortable.
Yes, sir.
Where did we stand? Well, we had the opportunity to plead out, as I said earlier. We could make that call. So we had to make a decision. Are we going to plea? And Diamante told me, Yak told me, I had nothing to do.
So he was standing on it.
Absolutely. He said, I had nothing to do with the death of Donovan Thomas. I am not going to go to prison for anything where I have to take any responsibility for the death of Peanut, death of Donovan Thomas. Yeah. And so he's like, I have faith in you. We're going to go forward. Okay?
Wow.
We're going to go forward.
What did you think, though? Did you think, oh, God, we're losing Thug and we're going forward? Are you you sure?
No, I mean, I didn't put it that way. It was more like, okay. I mean, now I've got this is a tremendous responsibility. Because if we lost, he was going to prison pretty much for the rest of his life if we lost. So it was a giant responsibility.
Yes.
And I took it very seriously. I mean, it's ultimately the only person that makes a decision on whether to plea out is that defendant, that individual. And it's, again, I'm not going to criticize people that pled out or criticize people that stay in. It's their call. And if you plea out, you got to live with that. If you plea out and you go into prison for something you didn't do, you got to sit. I don't have to tell you. Right. You got to sit in that prison day after day, knowing you're sitting there dealing with that shit on something that you didn't do.
Ooh, that's deep too.
Right?
Yeah.
And how can you live? I mean, so there's a lot of reasons people did the various things that they did. I respect each decision they all made. They made it for their own reasons. I wish Thug hadn't have pled out.
We finna get to that actually right now.
Yeah.
So okay. So before we get to the Thug plea thing, because I know that's gonna be a kind of intense conversation. The stabbing of Yak Gotti.
Yeah.
When did this happen?
It happened
like in relative to the plea actually being took
like
from
a month
Thug.
later.
So it happened a month after Thug's plea?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was toward the very end. I'm trying to think. I think it happened around the time of closing arguments is when that happened, that he got stabbed in the head.
How does something like this even take place?
Well, he wasn't stabbed in Rice Street. He was stabbed in like the South Fulton Annex. But, there's weapons in these. People fashion their own weapons. That's what happens.
But I'm wondering because my understanding so are they treating Thug different than Yak in jail? Because my understanding
Well, in the sense that I think they kept Thug more isolated from the general population.
Yes.
Whereas
they put Yak in there with
Yak's in there with everybody, right? So Thug was a little more isolated. And then, there's pluses and minuses to that, though, right? Because what kind of social interaction are you having when you're basically in solitary?
Right. But I would think when they're going to court, so where are they being transported from when Yak is coming to court? Is he close, or are they putting him on a bus every single morning for a year?
Most of the time he's at Rice Street.
Okay.
So that's like a 15 or 20 minute ride. It's not very far.
Right.
South Fulton's a little bit more of a distance because that's in Union City. So that's more of a commute from Union City in. But, Thug had a commute from Cobb County, which is a pretty good commute coming in
every day.
Yeah.
Damn.
Every day.
That's at 4 a.m. wake up too, man.
Oh, they were waking up.
Chain y'all up. You know what I mean? That ain't cool.
You saw me complain to Whitaker because like a couple of days they woke up Yak at like 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. to bring him to court. And I said something to the judge. The judge said something to the sheriff's office, and they moved it back to a more reasonable hour.
Wow.
Because, the reason why isn't just a humanity thing, but from a legal standpoint, I need Diamante's part of that defense team. I need his input. I need him awake and alert and listening to those witnesses, and so we can talk about everything. I can't have him there half asleep.
Right.
That's not an effective defense.
Right.
And I brought that up to Judge Whitaker, and she supported us.
Right. So you say Thug shouldn't. So what's your
I
position?
didn't say that.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Don't spread rumors.
What's your position on Young Thug's plea?
That is none of my damn business what he did, and I don't think it's anybody's business. And I don't think anybody should criticize what he did, even himself, because I know he's second guessing himself right now. Right?
Yeah.
And
why would you say that though?
What?
Why would you say he shouldn't be
criticizing, kicking himself?
Yeah.
Because you got to do what you got to do when you're in that position. And he had been locked up in there for 2.5 years. There was no guarantee. Now, looking back, it's so easy to say, man, you'd have gotten a not guilty too. And maybe he would have. Was he guaranteed that? You tell me, was he guaranteed a not guilty?
If you're asking me, the way that case was presented, I'm saying he was guaranteed. And I'm also saying that Brian Steele, although it's a different kind of celebration because Thug is home, I would think Brian Steele wants to nail this to the ground.
Hell yeah, he does.
I've spent 2 years away from my family in here every day, and we're whooping them.
Yeah.
We got them on the mat. It's two.
Yeah.
They just need one more.
Yeah.
The match is over.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if
we all felt that way.
That's what I'm saying.
No, that's true.
So if I'm looking at it, and I know Thug in that moment is like, yeah, but I get to go home.
Here's the other thing that I don't think people appreciate. And let's talk about this for a second. So when most people think about pleas, they think about a negotiated plea. That's what a normal plea is.
Right.
You and the prosecution, you agree on a sentence, and pretty much the judge accepts it for the most part, most of the time. What Thug did was incredibly ballsy. It took nerve, because what he took, and I don't think people appreciate this, he took a non-negotiated plea, which means he went before Judge Whitaker and said, I'm going to plead guilty, and I'm going to leave it to you, Judge, to set my sentence.
My God.
He didn't know he was going to go home when he pled guilty.
If I'm Brian Steele, I'm pulling my hair out, knowing that I got these people against the ropes. And here he is going in here for a non-negotiable. Now, I love him, so I support him. And I also think that this will probably come out in your favor, right? Because I wouldn't have let you do it if I didn't. But at the same time, yo, it's been 2 years, and we got him, bro. We got him right where we
Okay. Now, I'm going to nitpick a second.
Go ahead.
Brian Steele, it wasn't a matter of him letting him or not letting him do anything. That's entirely up to Jeff. But that's entirely up to him. We advise, we tell people what we think's going to happen, but the only one that makes that call
But what kind of respect is that when I've given you 2 years of my life, right? And that's just on the front end. That's just in trial, but I ain't no telling how long Thug and Brian has been together.
And
but
here's the other thing. Why did this trial end a month after all these guys pled out? It's because all these guys pled out. If Jeffrey would have stayed in that trial,
I was going to ask you how much
Jeffrey
time
would have stayed
took
in that trial, we would still be in trial today.
So if Thug would have not pleaded, how much time do you think?
I think
another
this trial
year?
would end. No, if he wouldn't have pled out, we probably would have been out by like April or May of this year.
Damn.
That's my guess.
Yeah.
That's my guess. So, look, I know people say, and it's not just hindsight. I know people said at the time he shouldn't have taken the plea. I get it. And then looking back, it's even easier now to say he shouldn't have taken the plea. But again, I'm not going to criticize a guy that's been basically stuck in solitary confinement for 2.5 years.
But he got
and
2
wants
more
to get
months.
home.
2-3 more months.
He doesn't know that. Well,
You
first
just
of all,
said it.
No, that was in. He took that plea November 1st, and I said we would have been there till May.
So
say 6 months.
6 more months.
6-7 months.
But the hard part over with, and I could possibly be a free man.
Yeah, I know.
You know, and then let's talk about the stipulations surrounding the plea agreement, right? Do you see that as being difficult to, stay free or stay in compliance with the standards?
Well, the terms that Judge Whitaker put on him were not nearly as bad as the terms in the negotiated plea.
Yes.
So they're a little more free for him to do his art. And here's
We didn't even talk. We got to talk
here's
about
something
that,
important. Here's something important.
Before we get up.
Here's something important.
Yes.
Judge Whitaker specified, if you bring him back here to court on a probation revocation, I'm the one that's going to hear it.
Right. So you can't run all these
You
little.
can't do some game and bring it back, and you get some judge that doesn't know what the hell went on in here.
Right.
You want to play some, because, that's what they do to people.
Yes.
They give them 10 years probation, knowing we're going to catch them at something and we're going to revoke them.
Right.
Because it's easy to revoke probation, man.
Yes.
It is easy.
And he got 15 years.
And it's easy to revoke.
Yes.
It doesn't take much of a fuck up, and you don't have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt on a
technical
probation revocation.
violation or something.
You only have to prove more likely than not. It's
Right.
easy to prove a probation revocation. Those are tough to win, which is why I was so happy that Yaks got withdrawn, by the way. So, I think he can follow it. He's going to have to be careful. But he's a little free to do his art, but he's going to have to be a little
That's what I
careful.
want to talk to you about, like the
Yeah.
art form side
Yeah.
of it, right? They utilize lyrics in this trial.
That's one of my hot button issues, right?
They utilize lyrics in this trial. You stand for the Rap Act and trying
I
to
do.
be on the side of, hey, allowing them free expression
Yeah.
and to protect their integrity as it pertains to creative integrity. What was your feeling as they read lyrics, as they played songs and videos, and they were wrong several times?
I know. It just
out of context.
The whole thing pissed me off. I mean, I don't know any other way to say it. Especially when it came to the lyrics they wanted to use against Diamante. Because look, I can kind of understand if there's some connection between a lyric and the crime. But they were doing shit where they're bringing up Thug's lyrics written months and months before the crime.
Right.
So how could it be talking about or bragging on the crime? It had nothing to do with the crime.
Right.
Was 100 rounds in the Tahoe.
Yeah, all of that.
So
that's what was interesting to
Give me a
me
fucking
is
break.
to see them doing like with the little Uzi diamond in the head or 5 million on
that
your
was
head.
the worst, man. I mean, if you guys don't know about that, if you didn't follow that, what was the line?
5 million on your head,
on a N-word's head.
Yeah.
He's talking about Lil Uzi Vert and that diamond in his head.
Exactly.
If you read it in context, the whole thing, it's clear that's what he's talking about.
Right.
The state puts it in the damn indictment like Thug's putting a hit out on somebody, and
try to stand on it.
That indictment gets read to the jury. We can't do shit about that.
That's what's
It gets
crazy.
read to the jury. It's all out of context. It's total bad faith. It's just more the crap that they tried to do. That's like the whole business. Shit, which was it? Slime. What was the album? The album with the eagle.
Future and
It's Future and
what's
Thugs.
that one?
What's Future and Thugs album?
Bruh.
Not Slime
What's that
Season.
Future? What's the Future and Thug album called? Slime
Season. Slime Season, I think. It may be Slime Season. Forgive me, it's not my music. Slime Season. Where they got the snake and the eagle, and they're like, this was a threat. That was all crap. You know what? Thug had nothing. First of all, those are the symbols of those two guys.
Yes.
Logos.
Right. Same with NBC and
it's
ABC.
It's logos.
NFL and NBA.
Right. It's logos. Thug had nothing to do with the design of the cover. That's like these lyrics. I brought this up in my cross-examination of, who the hell was that? I don't remember. It was one of the artists that they put on the stand. And I was cross-examining him about his lyrics.
Slime Life Shawty.
Slime Life Shawty. I was cross-examining Slime Life Shawty about his lyrics. He doesn't write those lyrics alone. Everybody gets involved in that.
Exactly.
Producers do. Record labels.
People in the room.
Everybody gets involved in that. That's just not, he's not some monk on top of a mountain coming up with this stuff.
Yeah.
So this whole use of lyrics is a real problem.
What's your position on that? How do you get it changed? And what is the fight consist of?
Well, I'm laying a little low right now because we've got some Republicans that are working on that right now in the Georgia legislature to get the Rap Act passed.
Okay.
So I'm just going to try to be kind of quiet,
Right.
a little more quiet than
Right.
normal
Okay,
about it,
okay,
and let
okay,
them do their
okay,
political
right.
thing.
Yes,
like
yes.
I'm going to stick to the courts for right now and let them do their legislating.
Facts.
But I'm doing what I can behind the scenes to get
Right.
stuff done.
Okay.
And I'd like it to be done nationally, but if we have to do it state by state, well, damn, we'll do
That's
it
where
state
you
by
start.
state. You know, we'll do
Super
whatever
Slimy
it takes.
is the name of it, actually. Super Slimy.
Super Slimy.
Yeah, that's
Thank
the
you.
name of it. Okay,
Thank you.
okay, okay.
I'm glad.
Also, I heard you be critical of the YSL documentary, that Law and Crime.
Well, I just thought it was very superficial, and
you have a relationship with Law and Crime, or had? Do you still have one?
I mean, ever since I criticized them, they don't talk to me too much anymore.
Well, you should be able to
But-
have your opinion. That shouldn't.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's no skin off my
Right,
nose. I
of
mean,
course
look,
not.
I think anybody that sees me on any of these interviews, I'm not very guarded. I pretty much say what I think.
Right.
I'm 60 years old. I
Yeah,
don't give a fuck anymore.
exactly.
I'm going to just say what I want to say.
Yeah.
And the chips will fall where they will. But, yeah, I just didn't think they did it. I thought it was sensationalized.
I didn't watch
I mean,
it.
if you want to me, there's a lot of people that do the YSL trial a lot better. Like, you're covering it.
Right.
Like, you look at, I think that George Cheedy and his partner did a great job
Who's
with
that?
King Slime, the King Slime podcast. George Cheedy's an independent journalist.
Yes.
That
He
King
was smoking it.
That King Slime podcast, it's 2 seasons. They didn't
Yeah.
get to do the whole trial because I guess it didn't get picked up.
Right.
But it's a great podcast, and it goes in depth into what happened.
Right.
You look at like Megan Cuniff's covering of the trial.
Megan on too.
Megan did a great job of that.
Yes.
There's a lot of Miss Sylvia was covering. I mean, the King. Who's the King, right? The king of all the coverage, I think, on like a
Thugger
minute
Daily?
by minute basis. Thugger Daily.
That's my guy.
Man, that guy.
Yeah.
He was awesome.
Yeah, I told him I want to get him with Thug at some point. Like, I want him to meet Thug, man. 'cause,
We all do.
Yeah, he did so much for the trial, and I don't even know if Thug and them know that. But I see
We all know it.
I
We
see
all know
Thug
it.
reposting him and shit.
We all
so
know
I
it.
know that there's something there, but I really think he deserves a handshake. You know what I'm saying?
He
dap
deserves
up,
all the accolades
merch.
and applause. Yeah, that
he
guy
deserves some
That
things.
guy deserves credit
Yeah.
because if you couldn't watch the stream, like most working people can't watch the
Right.
stream. If you couldn't watch the stream, he really gave
Clip by
you,
clip.
like,
This was
boom,
this
boom,
moment,
boom, boom,
this
boom.
moment, that moment, and also
and what he said was factual and
Yes.
true. I mean, heck, he'd reach out to some of us and
Right.
say, "Hey, explain what's going on here."
Yes.
I mean, I'm happy to tell people I was talking to Thugger Daily
Right.
because he's out there getting the truth out about what's
was.
going on.
He was doing a great job.
doing
Him
a
and
great
Cuff
job.
Boys. I actually
Yeah,
like how
Cuff
Cuff
Boys did a good job.
Yeah,
I
Cuff
haven't really
Boys did
talked to them, but they did a great
great
job.
Yes, he did a
You're
great
right.
job. And these guys had a infinity for Thug, man. They really wanted to see, like, whoa, this is our favorite. Whoa, don't do that. And they covered it different. Like Cuff Boys, he does this all the time.
Yeah.
But for Thug, it just felt a little different. It
Maybe
felt
so.
just the whole YSL trial felt a little different. It felt like it was journalism.
Yeah.
It wasn't just content creation.
Right.
And it's a difference.
And when I talked to Thugger Daily about it, he's like, well, I came into this with kind of an open mind and just like straight reporting about what's going on. But anyone that paid attention to this, you can't help but develop a feeling about what was going on in
Yes.
that courtroom.
Yes.
And what was going on in that courtroom, at least until Judge Whitaker came on, just wasn't right.
Right.
And Thugger Daily picked up on that.
Facts.
God bless Thugger Daily.
Nah, for sure. Also, Law and Crime
Yeah.
ended up releasing jail phone calls from Young Thug after he was released.
Yeah.
And, you know, for lack of a better term, caused some turmoil with him and his woman and things.
Here's what I was very, I'm glad you reminded me of that because I was very critical of that as well. And the reason I was critical of that is people have to understand, most people don't know this because they just see what happens in the movies. Since COVID, they cut off any kind of personal visits. So the only way to visit with your loved one who's in jail is over video. And they're recording all that stuff. And you don't have a choice but to be recorded. Thug had no choice but to have his interactions be recorded. And for that shit to leak was just low.
Yeah.
It was just low. And so I don't want to spread it. And so the shit that Academics was doing too, where he was spreading around a bunch of stuff. I mean,
and see, that's the thing about what I don't understand. People like academics, right? Which I'm in the same. We're peers, but I say what I want to say.
Yeah,
right?
good for you.
So academics, especially at the beginning, was very critical of Thug. Oh, they gonna hang him, all these, and I'm like, yo, bro, you represent us, our culture. If anything, create a conversation surrounding the misunderstandings with using lyrics and this oozy shit. Like, they clearly got a lot of stuff wrong from our cultural context.
Right.
Why are you pouring on and saying they're gonna hang him? Oh, he did it. Oh, Fani Willis did it. And I'm like, yo, bro, my God, it hurts my feelings, bro. Because I understand how powerful our voice is. It literally changes people's minds. So I'm thinking, what if the jury is watching this and he's wrong?
Yeah.
Like, academics is wrong about several things he's saying.
Now, the jury, they're instructed to not watch anything outside of court.
But is that going to happen?
And they say they didn't. But you know what? While the trial's going on, I can't count on that.
That's what I'm saying.
I can't count on that.
That's what I'm saying.
So, I mean, look, it's not just, I just got to make sure that everything that's out there in public about Yak is truth.
Please.
And if there's some bullshit going on about him, and by the way, this is the case for any of my clients. I'm not going to let people, I mean, if I'm gagged, I'm gagged.
Right.
And I was careful to follow the rules. Like, I didn't say stuff outside of court that I didn't also say in court.
Right.
Because I got rules I got to follow.
Right.
But if you're going to say some crap about my guy, I'm going to counter that.
Yeah, and you, as you should.
Yeah.
You know, as you should. Because when I see these narratives online, people don't understand how one hand wash the other, but both wash the face. So these people can start a narrative online that can really lead to charges, i.e., we saw R. Kelly, whether he's guilty or not, we see the documentaries pop up, and then following comes an arrest, prosecution, and then ultimately he's in jail. We see the same thing with Diddy. We see the rumblings, and then next thing you know,
folks that have a voice, whatever you call yourselves, journalists, I don't know what you call yourself.
Media. You know, I call myself a broadcaster.
Okay, a broadcast. You people that have public reach, whether you're like for the New York Times or you're on Twitter or TikTok or whatever, you got a responsibility that what you put out there should be truth.
Right.
Should be moving conversations forward, should not be dragging things down.
Yes.
And we all have a role to play in society. You know, I always say, according to Jewish mysticism, I'm Jewish, according to Jewish mysticism, the Kabbalah, the world got shattered. The world got broken. It's our job, all of our jobs, to repair our world.
Yes.
To make it a better place.
Yes.
To repair that world. It's called, in Hebrew, it's called tikkun olam, repairing the world. So I don't always succeed. I fall down. I'm a human.
Yes.
But I hope what I do is working to repair the world.
No,
and I think that's what we should all be doing. And tearing folks up, and that's why I don't want to speak bad on people. I don't think that helps me repair the world.
No, for sure. What's your feelings on Diddy's case? And then we'll get it.
I haven't been following it.
At all?
I'm sorry. Nah.
No, that's not true.
No, it's, you know what? That's totally
not true. You're too involved in this culture now to...
I know, but you know what? I have to tell the truth. Since YSL has gotten out, we've got 60 cases to try. Right. I got judges hauling me all over the state of Georgia into court. I am busier than a one-armed paper hanger. I am all over the place. So I followed the that case in California that I mentioned earlier. I'm tired.
Yeah.
I followed the ASAP Rocky case because I think that's pretty interesting what's going on there. The Diddy case, to the extent they tried to use some lyrics there, I'm going to be following that part of the case.
Okay.
But
you just ain't been tapped
digging
in.
out, man.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm
you did just
out.
come off a long run. You know, a lot of investigation and discovery and motions. Yeah.
But I think I may have alluded to it earlier. Like, starting March 1st, I'm going out on my own. I'll have a little more time to follow all that kind of stuff.
What do you mean when you say going out?
I'm starting my own firm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm
congratulations,
thank you.
bro.
I'm getting some space from Bruce Harvey. I'm going to be down in his building, and it's going to be let me do my own thing.
So are you telling me that what can you disclose what you were paid for representing Yet Gotti? Like, what is a case like that worth, basically?
Well, worth a lot more than we were paid.
Yeah, yeah.
But
yeah.
here, I'll tell folks the way criminal defense works in general if they don't know.
Yeah.
Usually the way criminal defense works is you come to us with a case. It's a flat fee. We look at the case and we say, based on our experience, we're going to charge you X amount of dollars. And that's it.
Right.
For the most part.
Right.
For the most part, that's how it works.
Okay.
So it's fair to say that, with maybe the exception of Brian and Keith, none of us got paid anywhere near what would be normal compensation for this task that we did. We took a beating.
Yeah, for sure.
We took
and
a
all
beating.
those hours.
But you know what? It doesn't matter. You know why? A deal's a deal.
Yeah.
You signed up for this. We have an agreement. Nobody's expecting a 2-year trial.
Right.
But that's the deal.
Right.
That's the deal.
Yeah.
So we're, my boss, Jay Apt, this is what we agreed to. We're going to try this case.
Were you paid cash or by the state? Like, not cash,
No,
but
we-
were you paid by your client or by the state?
We get paid by our client.
Okay.
We're private attorneys.
Private
We're paid
attorney,
by our
okay.
client.
Still could be court appointed.
Yeah, we were not court appointed.
Okay.
Miss D. Williams, that represented Lil Rod, she was court appointed.
Okay.
She was at the end of the case, or the bulk of the case, she was the only court appointed attorney still in there.
Wow.
So she was paid, it's public, I think she was paid $5,000 a month.
Yeah, that's nothing.
To be in that trial.
Yeah, that's nothing. When
and
you
she had
say
to fight
workload
for that, man. She had to
Yeah.
fight for that.
Yeah. Have you ever been a public? No, you went straight
No,
from
'cause
civil.
I went
wow.
straight- yeah,
wow,
well,
you went
right.
right to the big league.
Yeah, I did go right to the big leagues, right?
Yeah.
But that's okay. I love it. I love what I do.
Well, man, I really appreciate this conversation. We chopped it up good. The people gonna enjoy this, bro.
I hope so.
See a different side of you.
And I'm glad
Congratulations.
we finally got to speak.
No, for sure, bro. I've been
Yeah.
waiting to speak to you. I'm always, like I say, I watched you and I said, man,
Thank
he's a dog in there. I want to speak to him. I also want to get Brian Steele on here. I just ain't called him and told him. But I want to speak to Brian Steele. I want to speak to some of the people. I got the Juror 36 Monday.
That's going to be great.
It's gonna
That's going to be
so
great.
good,
Everybody
man.
should watch that.
Yeah.
I'm going to watch that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I really appreciate this though, man. And we'll be in touch and continue to have these conversations about other things, about the Rap Act.
Yeah.
I continue to lend my platform to you.
Thank you.
I
appreciate that.
And again, man, thank you for coming on, man.
Thank you.
All right, for
Great.
sure. Y'all do something with that game. It's Up There Podcast. Let's go.